G'day folks, Rod Moore here from Moore Art School and Learn to Paint TV. Welcome to another episode of Learn to Paint TV. Now this week I thought we'd do a nice little cityscape type painting of my travels through Whitby, which is on the North Yorkshire Coast in the UK. So I was there early one morning and it was quite an atmospheric sort of morning, and there was some nice sunlight just breaking through the buildings, and I'm walking down the cobbled alleyways, between these buildings with this sunlight, and it was silhouetting the people walking up towards me. So I've got my ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson on the board there. We'll use those to get our drawing started. I'm using a larger flat brush than what we normally do for our drawing, just to get a nice loose drawing in there. If we go too small on the brush, then we run the risk of working into detail too soon. So I'll just mix those two together, get a nice mauvey, dark mauve colour, a little bit more water in there. I want that paint to be nice and thin at this very first stage. So, step one, as always, is getting our drawing in, but keep that paint nice and loose. Now, I'll put up on the screen the photo of what we're going to do here. And notice we've got the portrait style just for something different as well. But the first thing I'd be looking for is to find where the sort of street horizon is. It's not the actual horizon, but the horizon level of the street, which I think runs to around about there, off in the distance. And that's a good sort of starting point for us to work from. And that's the footpath there. And we're coming through there. We're actually not that far, to about there. And that's going to give us this tall building, which is a nice dark. And there's, there are details in there. However, we're just going to treat that as one big dark for the moment. And that will serve us well to do so. So it's all about finding the key points. Getting that horizon line there, getting that line in there will help us. And then on this side, we have got, coming from round about here, actually a little bit lower, and it runs down to about there. And then it's all about perspective, this painting. So that's around about there. That goes to around about there. We'll run that one up to there. And then that building comes to there. And perhaps we'll do another video training at some point in the future on vanishing points and perspective and so on. But for the moment, we'll keep it simple. So this one here now runs out to about there. Somewhere around about there. And it runs slightly higher than that. Okay, goes there. Then we've got a line coming to there. It's a shallow face, but it's catching the light, so it's quite an important building, this one here. Then that runs up to there. That runs back there. And then we've got this beautiful old chimney, which the chimney sweeps would have had to tend to. Then there's another building which runs that way there, to about there. And again, very shallow faces on these couple of buildings in through there. So that brings our road down to about there. Okay. Now we do have groups of people in here. Okay, so this is what I really liked about this composition. I'm just going to make marks. I'm not going to try and paint any people in at this stage, right? It's just indications of people. And it gets smaller as they get further away. Okay. So I think that's going to make a really nice little composition with these people in here, and we're going to exaggerate their shadows running, into the viewer's eye there. Okay, so that's looking, reasonable at this stage. We'll just finish this one off. That runs sort of down there like so. And then around about here we have this nice colourful sign, which we'll pop that in there. So another one around about there. Just adds a bit of interest in the painting. And then at the back, now this is where we have to create depth in the painting. We want to get this nice and sort of atmospheric. But what we've got down at the back here is a row of shops and buildings here. Okay. And one of them goes kind of like that. fact, we'll simplify. We won't put them all in, so we'll just grab that one there. We'll run that down, and there's another roof line there, so that's a roof there. So then we'll come into this one here, and we'll work our way back through the buildings. Now this one, I want to push this more to the reddy orange side, still with blue in there, because we want everything to be greyed. So that means we need to have our 3 primaries in there, and I'll pinhead a white into this. It's one step back a little bit from there, right? A little pinhead more of yellow, and let's just see how that looks. And again, I don't want to try and get any details in at this stage. Okay. So it needs to be a little bit redder than down this side here. So if you've never been to Whitby in North Yorkshire Coast, beautiful part of the world there, highly recommend a visit. It's where Captain Cook, who theoretically discovered Australia, it's where he was based. He lived at, I think he grew up or was born in Staiths, a bit further up the road, but he certainly worked as a mariner or mariner out of Whitby, and that's where I believe he learnt his sailing and so on. Okay, so you can see that there's a difference there. This is a little bit warmer, which is sort of making it come forward a little bit. I've probably a touch more white in there might have been helpful. So this, just focusing on big shapes, if you learn to do this early on in your painting, rather than getting into details, it will definitely help you become a better painter. Because really, if you don't get it started right with big shapes and the right values of those shapes, then nothing you do later on is going to really resurrect it, if you know what I mean. You probably had that experience where you're trying to save a painting that doesn't look like it's going to work, and it hardly ever works out. Cutting around there. Okay, good. Now on the face here, it's just that little bit lighter, and I'll go maybe a touch yellower, just to indicate there's a bit of warmth in that sun there. Subtle little shift, because again, I don't want to get too light just yet. Now I'm going to ignore those people that I put in earlier. I put them in just to indicate where they're going to be, but we will work back into those a bit later on. So now let's come to this next section. I'll go lighter and I'll go a bit bluer in here, back in to the distance there. That's probably more like it there. Yeah, that's a bit better. It's a little bit on the red side, and so is that there. This face here is just a touch more on the yellow side, but I'll get a lot more white into that. Possibly we'll do the same just there. So we need to cover all this ground area, and what I think we will do is make up a grey that's on the cooler side, so mostly blue, a little bit of red and yellow, and a big chunk of that white. Okay, so this is just going to get down a tone here, and then we can warm it up in parts and cool it down if we need to. But it's definitely darker. If you look at that section in there compared to the sky, it's definitely darker. And if you compare what I've just mixed to the sky, it's definitely darker, right? It's probably a little bit too dark, add a bit more white, but it needs to be darker than the sky. but still lighter than most of the other elements that are in there. And I'm just going to fashion this in, just to take the white of the canvas out. But keep your brush strokes in the direction of the road. I think that's important. That'll give a sense that there's, you know, a pathway through the painting, and we'll just work around these people. We will kind of ignore them really at this stage. I'll keep my paint thin in here. I won't put huge chunks of paint in there. Up in here. I just picked up a little bit of that warmer tone, which I think is okay up here, maybe not so much down the back. Okay, and let's lighten it off even more down in this back section here. Okay, big empty street there, nothing going on. Pick up a little bit of that red, I'll just work some of that in. Just want to, you know, there's a lot of space there, so if we just shift the tone a little bit, mostly, as I said, closer to us. Step 3 now, in the more method of painting, we're going to look at our details, finishing touches, and our highlights as we go. So what I thought we'd do is start in this very background area in here where it's a very misty atmospheric sort of part of the picture just because of the atmosphere of the morning. And I'm just going to use a little flat brush, my smaller flat brush, and I'm just going to get a hint of some details in here. Not too much, and the important thing is that we don't get too dark in this section in here. There's some details in there. So I'm not going to do a lot of detail in here. I just want to get a few dark accents here and there that will just give some form to these buildings and so on. So just a little bit of shadow under the eaves there. And there are some windows obviously sitting in here. Don't fuss about getting these look perfect. Just keep them nice sort of loose indications, marks. Okay, probably just a little touch dark there, but there might be like an awning there with shop face and through there. So I'll just work around those people. Just getting a few little details in, and then this dark is probably going to work on here. So this has got 2 windows there, 2 windows there, and then front of a shop. No, get a bit darker. But again, you can see it's nowhere near as dark as those people there. So they're going to stand out, especially when we put some highlight around them. Okay, so you can shape up those people just with the putting in that shop window there. It's good. Now on this face here, there's really nothing. Maybe we'll just indicate some pipe work or something. Plumbing pipes. So I've got a little bit of mark there. Go a bit darker and put an indication of something there, and that needs to be blocked in, that chimney. Okay, now I've picked up a little bit of white on my brush there, and it's gone a bit murky, so I'll just mix that paint a bit better. And let's just get this chimney in. Like so, and then we'll come back to this chimney. I'll just lighten it off a little bit because clearly that was too dark, that one. Put that chimney to there. Now as we get to this face here, this is sort of more of a red-orange brick colour. So what we're painting in there, we'll treat that as the shadow, and then we'll get some of these lighter tones into there. So I'll go with an orange and a bit of white. That's a fair bit lighter than what we've already got up there, but it could be good to clip some of these highlights. So running down the side there, it's catching this light. I'm not going to do that as one big solid line. That's probably mucked it up a little bit there, but that's okay. So there. Then there's another one of those that runs. So if the line breaks up is what I mean, like that one there, then that's perfectly fine. One big solid line won't look quite right anyway. Okay. And then we've got this coming through there and there. Those protrude just above there, and then we've got a little bit of highlight tone coming in through there, just where the sun's clipping. Okay, so you can see we're going to put just a little bit more detail into this particular one than what we did with the buildings at the back, because it's closer to us, and it's more of an interest point than the ones further away. Okay. And then we have these arches. There's 3 of them, and this one here is going to be the thinner one. Don't try and get this perfect. Again, give it a nice, fresh, loose feel. And they're all going to be terminated around about there, and then around about here it starts to square off. So yeah, I'm just going to really just try and indicate. So I want them to be in dark. They're nearly all in shadow, but I don't want them to be black. So we just need to work on just getting a variety of different dark tones for them. Okay. And again, I'm not going to try and paint every detail of these people. And what I'm doing is I'm just shifting the tone. Like I'm going to push this one a little bit bluer because they're more in the shadows over here. Just strengthening them up a little bit is all I'm doing. Take that head out and just make it one a little bit shorter. Touch of white in there as we head back into the distance there. Now these 2 here, we'll do one slightly on the redder side. We'll do her in her dress. Just warm her up a little, and we'll go that bluer grey there for him. Okay, they're having a bit of a smooch in the street. But we don't want too much colour, but just a tiny little bit of colour just to stop them going black, you know what I mean? And as they go further back in the distance, we need a bit of white in there just to have them really in the background. And I've just put like little indications, little marks there for them. Okay. So I think we need to strengthen up on their shadows. I've got a little bit too black in the shadows originally. So this time we'll just go a little bit more mauve with them. That's a bit better, I think. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to highlight the edges of these people, just their little tips, just to see if we can bring out their shape a little. A bit more white. So for this we're going to use an orange. We'll use a little rigger brush again. Take the yellow and the red, mix those into an orange. I want the orange to be on the yellow side, like so. And then we need a chunk of white into that. Probably even more white. I want this to be quite light in tone because those people are they're in shadow. There we go, that's working. And I'll get a little bit of water, pull through just on the tip of the brush. Okay, so I'm just using that very little tip there. And let's just try and just see if we can't bring out these people a little bit. Down the side of her dress. It does seem like a few little cobblestone type marks in here mightn't be a bad idea, just to put some interest into the foreground. And all I'm going to do is just put little dashes. I'm not going to try and paint in cobblestones. Okay, and I'll just let them disappear as they head further away into that where that sunlight's breaking through. So I'm not really painting cobblestones as such. What I'm really painting there is just the shadow part of the cobblestone that might be showing up. And you know what? I think we will leave it there. I think it got to a point where it's giving a nice little impression of Whitby, the laneways, early in the morning with the sunlight breaking through and highlighting the people. But everything else in shadow because the laneways are quite tight there in the old part of Whitby. And I think that's quite not a bad little representation of the scene that I saw when I was there. So there's a little bit in this painting. Getting the shapes right and the distance and the values, I think, is where most of your focus probably wants to be in getting that right. If you can get that part right, there's little details at the end, you know, they pretty much take care of themselves. So definitely one to have a go at. Even if you're a beginner, I'd still have a go at this one. Just take your time, work through the explanation and have a go at it. You might be surprised at what you end up with. So I hope you've enjoyed this program and I'll see you next week on Learn to Paint TV. Cheers for now.